Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest local media company in the New York metro area. We publish over 80 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, Manhattan, Long Island, the East End, Philadelphia, and even Palm Beach, Florida. And today we are thrilled to bring you a very important webinar, Stop Fraud and Criminal Scammers. You know, it seems that criminal scammers are everywhere, on your phone, online, in your email and text messages, and even at your door. And we've seen a remarkable spike in all forms of fraud over the past 2 years. Today, luckily, we're going to talk to experts to help educate us on the top scams and how to spot them. So let me introduce our panelists. First, please welcome Kathy Stokes. Kathy is the Director of Fraud Prevention Programs with AARP, where she leads efforts to educate consumers on how to spot and avoid scams. Kathy has worked in and around the financial security arena for nearly 3 decades and is a frequent public speaker. Her experience includes serving on a special working group of the Federal Reserve to create the fraud classifier SM model to provide a common taxonomy for fraud across the payments industry. She currently serves on the advisory council to the board of the International Association of Financial Crimes Investigators. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me.
So happy to have you here. Next, please welcome Kat Fisher. Kat is the Associate State Director of Community Engagement, AARP, New York. Kat Fisher has been the AARP Associate State Director of Community Engagement for Hudson Valley in New York State since 2018. Kat works with members, volunteers, and staffs on issues important to the 50-plus population and AARP's 2.6 million New York members and their families. Kat Fisher has led successful AARP campaigns in New York State on fraud and scams and has developed many local and virtual programs for AARP members and guests. Before joining AARP, Kat Fisher worked as an educator and advocate, leading campaigns and organizing communities for several nonprofit organizations. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate this opportunity as fraud and scams are soaring everywhere, and New York is no exception. Of the nearly 170,000 scams that were reported to the FDC in 2021 alone, we know that New Yorkers have lost more than $280.9 million. In 2019, it was a lot less. It was 83.7 million, still a lot, but the leap has been huge. Most scams are not reported, so we know that much more was actually lost. The more people are aware of the different kinds of scams, the more likely they are to identify them as scams. So thank you so much for helping us get the message out.
Oh, absolutely. That's a lot. And those are just the scams in New York State, right? And those are the only ones in New York State that are being reported to the FTC.
Exactly.
So what are the most common scams here in New York according to that data?
Well, the most common kind of fraud we're seeing in New York is identity theft, where criminals get a hold of our personal and financial data. So shredding sensitive documents like bank statements and tax information is a really important way to protect ourselves. According to the FTC, 37% of those cases in New York were the result of someone gaining access to people's credit card information.
How are these criminals getting this information?
Well, you know, there are many ways from the age-old stealing mail or stealing someone's wallet or purse, or handbag, or more high-tech hackers who break into utility and bank data stores so that information that's being stored online is breached. So here in New York, we also see a lot of imposter scams where people are posing to be from a bank, a tech company, or even from the government. And those account for another 11% of the scams that we're seeing. AARP's Fraud Watch Network staffs a helpline, though, that's available to everyone where people can call in to report scams or to ask questions and get tips for dealing with scams. So we hope everyone has a pen handy to take down that number. It's 1-877-908-3360. Again, 877-908-3360. That's a helpline. And there they can provide you with information about online support sessions if you have encountered fraud, and also give you lots of tips how to handle it. We also have volunteers
I did
who,
just put it in the chat as well, just so everyone knows. So it is there in the chat.
oh, great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
We also have volunteers who we will train to help us fight fraud, and we keep them up to date on new kinds of fraud and new tips. So we encourage anyone who would like to join the fight to contact me here in New York. So I'd like to also share my email. I can be reached by email at nyaarp@aarp.org.
And I'm sharing that here in the chat as well. And also, please note, I'm going to share the number for the Fraud Watch Network and how to contact Kat. I will share that in the email that you will get tomorrow from us as well. So it's here in the
Thank
chat.
you.
You'll get it tomorrow too. And you could write it down if you'd like.
Thank you so much. So we'd love to make you all aware of how these scams work and help arm you against these criminals. So here to do that is the director of the National Fraud Campaign, Kathy Stokes.
Kat, thank you so much for that information, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm going to attempt technology to share my screen and make sure that everybody can see my presentation.
And like I said, this is being recorded. You will get a link to it so you can watch it again. You can share it, and please enjoy this information. Powerful.
So yes, today we're going to be talking about the scam landscape, and what you heard in the beginning with Elizabeth and Kat's sage words is it's a mess. It's a crisis situation, I would vow to say, and we've got to do a lot to help ourselves and our loved ones be able to spot and avoid the fraud, but we also have to do more as a nation on the issue. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that down the road here. Let's see if I can get this moving here. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Fraud Watch Network and some resources that we have. I'm going to go over the top scams that we're seeing. And I want to talk about reframing how it is we talk and we think about victims of financial crimes. And it's very different from how we talk about victims of other forms of crime. So about the Fraud Watch Network, we help people stay informed on the latest scams. We have a really great webpage at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. We have on there what's called a fraud resource center. I think it has 70 or 80 tip sheets now, and they're quick reads to help you understand what the various scams are. If you hear somebody say that they heard about the grandparent scam and you don't know what they're talking about, head over there and you can read about the grandparent scam. We also have the helpline, as Kat mentioned, and we have other forms of support, and we also advocate, and we're looking to do a lot more of that given the crisis level that I believe fraud has come to. I did just want to spend another minute though on the helpline that Kat mentioned. It's free to everybody. You can use it in a number of ways. You can report a scam that maybe you've seen in the wild, but you haven't interacted with, but you want to tell somebody about it. You report it to us, we report it to the Federal Trade Commission. So easy peasy there. If you get something in the mail or an email and you're just not really sure whether it's legitimate, call the helpline. Our trained volunteer experts will walk you through and tell you what to look for to see whether or not it is a scam. And then importantly, if you or a loved one fall victim to a scam, we have our helpline, again, trained volunteers who can help you understand what happened, help you understand what steps to take, and importantly, listen to you with empathy. This is a space where people feel horrible about what happened. They often blame themselves, and we're going to talk about that. You will not get that if you call our helpline. Just last year, we had 97,000 inbound calls. And just to show you how committed our volunteers are, that average call time is 22 minutes. And some of them go on for hours. So please take advantage or let people know in your community to take advantage of that. So now I'm going to talk about the top scams that are happening now. This is based on what we know from our fraud helpline and also from Federal Trade Commission data, and hope to give you some information on things you haven't heard of before. The top that we're going to talk about are imposters, government and business, identity theft and identity fraud, because they're kind of not the same thing, lottery fraud, online romance scams, which have flourished, and something I like to call, can you do me a favor scams. So let's first talk about imposters. And in this case, we're talking about a government entity or a business. And with the government, it can be federal, state, or local. Quite often we see it's someone pretending to be from the Social Security Administration, and there's a problem with your card, it's been used in a crime, and you have to call us back right away. Or it's the Internal Revenue Service, and you owe back taxes, and we are sending someone to arrest you right away unless you pay now. Or Medicare calling to offer a free product or equipment or DNA test kit, just give your Medicare number over. People pretend to be the Federal Trade Commission itself, doing a lottery sometimes. You may get contact from the US Postal Service saying that there's a problem with something they're trying to deliver to you. All of this activity is fraudulent, just like in the business world. I don't know how many people have gotten this. I would imagine most of us have gotten an email or a call or a text from Amazon saying there's a problem, that something has been charged to our account and it looks fishy and we need to get in touch with them. Or you get a call from your utility company, say in the dead of winter, and it's the gas company, and they say you've neglected to pay your bills and they're going to stop your power right away unless you pay. Latest we're hearing is people getting emails from Norton LifeLock. It's an identity theft protection security program for your computer, and the email says that it's your invoice for the next year. And by the way, if you think this came to you in error, call this number or click this link. It's a total scam. And then we've got traditional tech support scams, people pretending to be Microsoft, calling you and saying there's a problem and they need to help you. So here's what to know about this. Mostly governments and businesses aren't going to contact you out of the blue about a problem, certainly not by the telephone. If you do think there may be a problem, then contact that entity at a number that you can trust. Let's say you get an email or a text from Amazon and they say that somebody's charged $600 to your account and they want to make sure that it was you. Well, don't respond by linking or calling a number. If you're an Amazon member, then go on the website and log in, or go to the app and log into your app and see if there's any way that they're trying to communicate to you, and you'll find that they are not. Also, if they're telling you you have to make a payment, don't make any payments, don't share any sensitive information. That's hard for people to stop doing if they're in the spot of a scam, in the midst of a scam. But we'll give you some ideas for how to even avoid that. Moving on, we're going to talk about identity theft and identity fraud. Now, identity theft, which is probably something we've all experienced, whether we know it or not, it's where our identity has been compromised. It means somebody hacked into one of the thousands of companies that get hacked into every year, and our identity has been exposed. It doesn't mean it's been used yet. So if you get a letter that says that there was a data breach and your data were compromised, it doesn't mean you're a victim of identity fraud, but you may be, and there are things that you can do to protect yourself. Now, the fraud happens when that stolen identity has actually been used for illegal gain. And the things that you can do to stop ID theft from becoming ID fraud are several. One is at least put a fraud alert on your credit reports. Those are with the major agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and I'm always forgetting what the third one when I'm on Experian. You can call one of them, contact one of them, and they'll put a fraud alert on your credit report. All that means is if someone is trying to open credit in your name, that credit bureau has to contact you to make sure it's you. The stronger protection is actually to freeze your credit. And this is something that is now free to everybody. And it basically locks you down. So if somebody has your information and they try to open a loan or try to get a car or something in your name, they won't be able to because you're frozen. So if you like need your credit, you can unfreeze and then refreeze. And you do have to do a little work. You have to do that with each of the agencies, and you can find information about that at annualcreditreport.com. And I believe all of those bureaus are offering free weekly credit reports online right now, ever since the pandemic. That'll end at some time, but go to annualcreditreport.com. Use a password manager. We are notably bad at maintaining good password hygiene. No fault of ours, it's the system we're stuck with. But if we use the same or similar password across accounts, that's just going to make it easier for a criminal who cracks one to crack the others. I think actually there's two really good ways to protect yourself here. One is old school, write everything down. But if you're going to write it down and make a unique password for everything, you're going to have it in a place where nobody but you knows where it is. If you want to get a little bit more technical, you can use a password manager. I actually use one, and I find it's pretty easy to use. And it creates really strong encrypted passwords for you, and they're maintained in an encrypted vault. And then set up online access to your financial accounts. And I know this sounds counterintuitive. You think, well, I'm not going to bank online because that'll make me safer because they can't get to my bank if it's not online. Well, that's actually not the truth. If you're not online with your bank, a scammer gets your information, they can get online with your bank pretending to be you. It also gives you the opportunity to check your statements more frequently. You can go in every day if you wanted to. You can put notifications on so that anytime a transaction occurs in a given account, you get a text or an email so that you're aware of the activity that's happening. I actually do that, and for my credit card and my checking account, I have anytime $1 comes out of the account, I get texted. And yeah, it's a little annoying sometimes to get all those texts, but I think it's a really good way to stay up on things. If you do find yourself a victim of identity fraud, you'll learn about these protections and more at identitytheft.gov. That is also run by the Federal Trade Commission, and you put in your specific information on what happened, and it actually gives you a specific report geared to what your experience was on how to handle it and move on. Now we're going to talk about sweepstakes scams. Here's examples of articles that I pulled. You're a winner. Not really. Publishers Clearinghouse scam is back. Or, this woman lost $45,000 in back-to-back sweepstakes scams. They are all over the place. You'll get something in the mail. You'll get a phone call. You may get an email saying, hey, congratulations, you've won $1 million in a car. And they make it sound so convincing, and you'll get all excited and they'll tell you all about it. And then they'll say, and all you have to do is pay some upfront fees. And typically they'll say, you can put that on a gift card and share the numbers off the back. The red flags here are you're winning a lottery that you never entered, or you need to pay an upfront fee to collect the prize. That is not even legal. In the United States, you do not have to collect or to pay anything up front to collect something you've won. So that's the biggest key for me. If you hear someone saying you've won this and all you need to do is pay a fee, hang up and report it. Call the Fraud Watch Helpline or FTC. Now we're getting to the online romance scam. And I know it's hard for people to understand how these happen, and I'll talk a little bit more about how the scammers are so successful in a minute, but these are particularly heinous crimes because not only are they stealing money, they are making their victims believe in a relationship that doesn't exist. So when it's all over, you've lost everything, including the love of your life that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your days with. So it's really tragic. And it doesn't just happen on dating apps. Yeah, it can happen on Match.com or the apps or whatever, but it also happens on virtually any social media platform. You might be playing Words with Friends or Scrabble online, or you're on Facebook and you're perusing your social media feed and someone tries to friend you. It's all these different ways that people try to get to the next target. And typically what happens in a romance scam, The person will show a lot of interest in you very early on. They'll ask you to go off of whatever social media platform you were on onto a different one. And that's typically because whatever they try to get you to go to isn't monitored for fraud the way some of these other social media platforms would be. WhatsApp is a common one. Google Hangouts is another. They say that they love you very, very early on. They, from a distance, wine and dine you. They may say that they're working abroad, but they're a US citizen, Doctors Without Borders or something like that. They may say that they're on a military deployment and they can't get away, and they'll start asking for money just a little bit here and there. Hey, I really can't get my network working very well. Can you send me a gift card for $50 and I can get that working? And then it snowballs. And these relationships, and they feel so real to the victim, can go on for days, months, weeks, years. And somehow you're just never able to meet in person, but you really feel like you know that person. But then the urgent need for money comes, and they're not going to stop trying to get money out of the victim until the victim finally realizes that it's fraud. And that it can just wipe out a person in the amount of time it takes. So the things to look for, somebody who's coming on strong really quickly and wants you to move off quickly. You never meet in person. There's always an excuse or some reason. The need for money, and that might not come up anytime soon. And you may feel really comfortable sending a gift card for $50 to someone that you feel like you know. But anytime someone that you're in an online only relationship with asking you for money, that's a big red flag that that's fraud. And now we're down to the can you do me a favor scams, and these are really growing in popularity. This is a short message, typically by text. You'd get it from maybe a boss at work or a boss's boss's boss at work, or maybe you're in a faith community and the rabbi or the pastor reaches out to you, and it's in their name, and it says, hey, Carol, I'm in a board meeting and I'm doing this employee appreciation event this evening. I can't get away. Could you go and buy 40 Amazon cards, put $100 on each? You can expense it. I just need them, share the numbers off the back, take some pictures, really appreciate it. Or if it's, the faith leader, hey, I had to run into the city today. I didn't have time to buy gift cards for our new family who's really in need. Can you just put $500 on a Target card? Send me the information on the back and I'll pay back when I'm back. Thank you so much. Both of those are entirely fraudulent, and most of us would never know that because our reaction is going to be, well, my boss is telling me I got to do something, or, oh, of course, Father Tom is asking me to do something, I'm going to do it. We just don't have the filter that says, maybe this isn't legitimate. But the red flags are that brief and urgent message. The person is unavailable, needs a quick favor. Buy the gift cards and share the numbers off of the back. Those are the key signs to the can you do me a favor scam.
And Kathy, I'm just going to add.
Oh, that's so funny. We both had something. I have a question. When these texts come through, do they actually come up with the name of the person, like from your mailbox? You know how when you get a text and you could see the person's name, are they able to access that so it really looks like it's from them?
Yes, we've actually had an experience here at AARP where a message came from our CEO to a couple of interns, and the interns were like, "Oh, it's the CEO, I've got to go do it," and they bought the cards. Yeah, and then same thing. If quite often, community groups will have an online presence, and let's say your church has an online page, and it'll say who the pastor is, and it may even list who's on the committees or whatever, and that's the way they gather that money, that information to target. And Kat, you were going to say something too.
Yeah, the same thing just happened. I was just going to say the same thing that the host said, is that they spoof the numbers from your address book in your phone, because the text came from a number in my father's phone and it looked like a friend of his. So yeah.
Yeah, that's another important thing. I don't think we talk about it specifically, but spoofing and robocalls are, it's through the roof. So it allows a criminal, there's technology that allows a criminal to make any, to put anything in that caller ID. So I can be me and I can write Elizabeth Aloni and send Kat a message and she or call her and she'll just think it's Elizabeth. It's that easy. And you can buy these apps that do it for like $6. So it's super easy to do. It allows, also technology allows these criminals to send tens of thousands of calls out a day. And all they need to do is get 1%, 2% to respond. Because once they get connected to the individual, they're going to be successful in stealing their money. That's just how it works. There's laws. There's a 2018 law passed about trying to, get a hold on these. The Federal Communications Commission has gone after the industry, and it's still, I don't think there's any relief. So we are looking for ways to try to address that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. So now I'm going to turn the page, and I'll want to talk about a project that the Fraud Watch Network began last year. And so we're in the second year of a 3-year program. And the goal is nothing short of trying to change the way our society talks about and thinks about scam victims. And we think that it's significantly important that it can be a game changer. And I'll tell you how. So first of all, I want to talk about how we typically react to violent crimes and property crimes. We have great empathy for someone that we know that experienced this. Oh my God, that poor family, I can't believe that happened to them. Or I'm going to make them a lasagna. I'm going to take it over and we're going to sit. We're going to be like really caring and trusting and loving. But then this is how we talk about victims of another crime, fraud. You got duped by that. It's the oldest trick in the book. Or you'd have to be an idiot. How could you fall for that? Or how much money did you give them? Not a lot of empathy there. And then this is how victims talk about themselves. I can't believe I fell for this. How could I be so stupid? We did some focus groups a couple of years ago, and we're talking about how people feel about scams and fraud and victims. And here are some of the verbatims. Some people actually said these words: I cannot fathom the level of gullibility it would take for someone to send money to someone they've never met. Or, good God, where has common sense gone? I know people are lonely. Hell, I'm lonely, but I'm not stupid. And so take examples from the headlines. Here's one article from New York, from the New York Post. Suspect busted for robbing 80-year-old man inside New York City apartment building. And here you have the crime and the criminal. You have a suspect, the criminal, who was busted for robbing an 80-year-old man. That's the crime. But then you read about a scam event, and it may say something like, Hillsborough woman bilked out of $28,950. Well, where's the criminal in that? Where's the crime? The focus in this article is on what a poor woman in Hillsborough experienced, and they're blaming her for it by saying it was her fault. She got bilked. She got fooled. She got tricked. And it's just something we have to change. Let me tell you a little bit about today's scammer. There's always going to be the lone wolf out there doing his thing, or small gangs or whatever doing their things. But mostly these days, we're talking about transnational criminal enterprises. We're talking about homegrown organized crime. They have offices, they have employees, they buy lead lists, they have the money, they have the time, and they have a playbook that if they follow, they will succeed in their fraudulent activities. And the winning tactic they have, and they have used these terms, we've done research with actual criminals over the years, and they'll say the goal is to get that target under the ether. And they talk about the ether as being a space where we're in a heightened emotional state, whether it's fear or excitement or even love. And we're not really able to access our logical thinking processes when our mind is focused on emotion. So once they can get their target under that ether, they have a really, really good chance of pulling off what they're trying to accomplish. And then what's the toll of all this? Well, it's billions, and I want to say billions and billions of dollars that are lost every year with little chance that the victim is getting that money back. Nearly 2/3 of victims report experiencing at least one serious impact on health or emotional. And really sadly, and we hear this on our helpline, thousands of people take their own lives. They die by suicide after experiencing something like this. So what if we flip the narrative? What if we said falling victim is not your fault? It's the fault of the criminal who perpetrated this crime. I'm sorry you've had to endure this. Words matter. Instead of saying, I can't believe you got duped, let's say, it's not your fault. Or how could you fall for that? Say scammers are really good at what they do and you're a victim of a crime. You know, in the first hand, it's blame and shame, but if we can modify how we talk about it, it shows empathy and it may even empower the victim. And this is really beyond just changing words and semantics. We really think that this can have major impact from the individual to the societal level. So in the beginning, if we're talking to victims as victims of a crime and not blaming them, they're going to stop feeling shame. And as a matter of fact, they'll probably get angry and want to do something like report the crime. So more victims will report. More family relationships will be protected. We can't tell you how many times we hear of just families shattering over things like this. You know, if an older parent gets involved in an online scam and they lose all the family money, it's anger, it's bitterness. It's not at all, you know, trying to understand and help. And, you know, it has a permanent effect on families. And then I would guarantee you, if you picked up the phone and called your local police right now, I bet 50% of the time, if not more, when you say I'm a victim of a fraud, they'll basically say, why are you calling us? You gave them your money, the money, you know, and it's a civil matter. It's not criminal. That's wrong. It's a crime. And maybe prosecutors will take on more cases and maybe policymakers will act. When our policymakers in Washington and at the state level begin to understand the profound crisis that fraud is, they will start to take action, more action than they are. And on that passionate note, I end with thank you. But I thought maybe we could talk, open it up to some questions, Elizabeth. Did we get any in the chat?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, first of all, just wow. And thank you so much for sharing this information. Really, knowledge is power. And I think, you know, all of us knowing about about these scams and also knowing about how to react when someone we know has been a victim really empowers us to be able to do the right thing and protect ourselves and our families. So thank you for that. But we do have some great questions. So I want to jump over to that. I also want to let you know that Schneps Media is going to be doing some shredding events that is sponsored by AARP to be able to help people protect their identity. So I'm going to share in the chat the website. It's schnepsmedia.com/events/free-shred-events. And these are free events that you can go to and have your protected documents shredded. So take advantage of that because that's, you know, a great way, another step you can take to make sure that your identity is safe. So let me jump to some of these questions. Maria wanted to know, how can I stop all these robocalls that ring my phone day and night?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a problem. The first piece of advice I'm going to give, everyone's going to roll their eyes, but just listen to me for a second. Put your numbers on the do not call list. The National Do Not Call Registry is managed by the federal government, by the Federal Trade Commission. Go to donotcall.gov and enter your numbers on there. You'll say, you know what? I've done that before and it didn't work. Well, before, your number would roll off of that list after 3 years, and it's been made permanent. So get those numbers on there. Is it going to stop a scammer? Is a scammer going to go, ooh, they're on the do not call list? No, but legitimate telemarketers aren't going to call you if you're on that list, because the Federal Communications Commission will come down on them hard with really steep fines. So that means calls that are coming into your house and you don't know who they are, or they're unfamiliar numbers, more likely to be a scam. So it's easier to spot them.
That's a great
And
tip.
then, I'm sorry.
No, I just said that's a great tip. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and there's also there's call blockers. There are things that your phone service provider can help you with. And if you don't know what they are, contact them and find out what they are. You might have to pay a few bucks. Some things are free, but nothing is fail proof. But if you can do what you can just to put them at bay, that helps.
That's great advice. Margaret said, we have to be careful about clicking on emails, and that's true. You mentioned that, but she wanted to know what information can be accessed via scam emails. What are people looking to get when you click on that?
It's a variety of things, and it's taken a real scary turn. It typically would be, you click on a link and you go to a fake web page that looks legitimate, and you put your credit card information to buy something, so they're stealing your credit card. More often, we're seeing now that you click on that link and malicious software is automatically downloaded onto your device. And that malicious software's intent is to harvest your credentials, is to find all of your usernames and passwords so that they can violate your accounts. So whoever said it's really dangerous to click, it is really dangerous to click. Just try to get out of the habit. Go to your web browser, type in the name yourself, don't Google anything. bestbuy.com, amazon.com, not just a Google search, to make sure that you're going to the legitimate site.
That's great advice. Now, is there anything you can do? Let's say you clicked on something. Now, nobody who's on here right now is going to click on anything again. But if somebody did, is there anything you can do on your computer at that point to remove that malware?
If you have good protection on your device, you should be able to access that that service. You click on a few buttons and it can do a scan and make sure it captures any viruses or any malicious code. But if you're not sure, or if you didn't have that protection, then I would recommend talking to a family member or going to one of the big box stores. They offer tech support and they can do it for you. It costs some money, but yeah.
Okay, that's good advice. Gina wanted to know, how do I know if the text is or isn't legitimate?
Well, unfortunately, you don't know anymore. And that's why you pause, you don't click any links. And if you think it's something legitimate, reach out to that entity yourself. I can't tell you just in the last 2 weeks how many fake FedEx texts I've gotten saying that I have a package, but they need more information. So I'm not getting anything, but especially over the holidays when you might be sending things a lot or expecting things, they were really hot. Click on this link. We need more information to deliver your package. It's all fraud.
Thank you for sharing that. We have something else. Someone said also be careful about smartphones, their computers, and just as susceptible. So how susceptible are phones? So let's say I get a link and I open up an email on my phone or a text on my phone and I click on it. Can malware go into my phone too?
It can, depending on the device that you have. Some phones are set up in such a way that it's not going to happen as much. For example, I have an iPhone, and the way the company has set up their systems, it's pretty hard to drop malware into it. But if you're on an Android or a Google phone and you don't have some sort of protection set up on that phone, it sure can happen to you that way.
Okay, that's good to know. So Robert wants to know, I've heard of the grandma scam. What is that exactly?
It's kind of in the vein of the romance scam in that it plays on people's love and emotions. The grandparent scam is when a criminal will call, sometimes early in the morning or late at night. They have a target list, so they know your age. They may, through social media, know the names of your grandchildren, and they'll call like, Grandma, it's Timmy. I'm in so much trouble. I need your help right away. I was just in a really bad car accident. I ran somebody, I knocked her down, and she's gonna die, and she has a kid, and I'm in jail, and I need you. I just need you to help me right now. Please don't tell mom and dad. All I need you to do is wire $10,000 here, or buy these gift cards, share the numbers off the back, get me out of the trouble I'm in now, and then we'll talk. And even just saying that, I felt like I was going to cry, because I'm thinking, oh my God, but that's all fraud.
Mm.
I just watched a piece on, I think it was 60 Minutes, might have been something else, where someone experienced this, where they impersonated her granddaughter. And I believe the grandmother, bought into the story, sent the money, and then the granddaughter never called her to thank her. And so she didn't talk to her for 6 months. And so they go to a family gathering, and finally the grandmother walks over to the granddaughter and says, I never told your parents, but I'm so disappointed in you that you didn't talk to me after that. And the granddaughter's like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, it can have impacts in many ways.
Yeah, thank you. We have a couple of questions that are similar, that they want to know about, what about companies that are legitimate companies that requesting sensitive information? One person said, I quite often worry that businesses aren't very sophisticated with their security and don't offer encrypted safe portals. Someone else was saying, what about companies like Norton and McAfee? When, once you buy protection, they, how is it being monitored? When I give them my phone number and I give them my credit card. So I guess the question really is, what do we do about giving our information to legitimate companies and protecting it?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think that in some ways, first of all, always work with a company that has a good reputation that you've done some research on. If you're getting an offer from Norton or Kaspersky or one of the big ones, I don't remember all of them, then, you can feel pretty confident that you're working carefully. It's the fly-by-nights, it's the small company that's a startup that says, hey, sign up for our business, that I would be more concerned about. And, I don't know how many of you have experienced this. When I go to my doctor's office and fill out the new patient form, they want my social security number. They don't need my social security number. I never fill it out, and nobody has ever said anything to me about it.
That's a
So
good
there are things that
point.
you can do, just don't share it and see if you get away with it.
That's a great point, right? Because they have your health insurance. Why do they need your social security number? We're so used to people ask for information, you just give it. And really what you're saying is you can't do that.
No.
You have to withhold as much information as possible and only offer it to people that for sure are legitimate. And only even those people who are legitimate really need that sensitive information.
If it's somebody reaching out to you, you haven't begun the connection with that entity. If they're reaching out to you and they're asking for sensitive information, just make it a rule. Don't give it. Just don't give it. Unless, it's your doctor, it's Mary from the front desk at your doctor, and you know them, and you feel like they just needed to update something. That's one thing. But a call from an entity that you haven't done business with, it's just best to protect what you can.
Really important. We had a couple people that talked about, getting emails of a purchase confirmation that was fraudulent. Someone else said, they got, some of their friends got an email from them, a text, excuse me, from them, and where could they fraud it, send this fraud information. And Kat was wonderful to share again. This is where you can share with the Fraud Watch Network through the helpline into the FTC. And Kat did put in the chat here information on that. The numbers 1-877-382-4357, but you can go ahead and access that and make sure that you're reporting it. I think, you make a really good point about victims, people feeling like it's their fault and perhaps things are underreported, and just how important it is. The more we report these things and share these things like we're doing tonight, the safer we all are. So, report. Take the few moments it is to do it, because once we hear about a scam, it's much harder for them to trick us again, right?
Well, there's research to prove that. If you know about a specific scam, you're 80% less likely to engage with it. And if you do engage with it, you're 40% less likely to lose money or sensitive personal information.
So we have to talk about this. We can't be embarrassed. If we experience something, we have to let everyone know about it so that we can all protect each other and not feel embarrassed. These people are experts. They are doctors of their trade.
Yes.
And, it is not a level of your intelligence if you fall for something like this again. You're not falling for it. They have manipulated it successfully. They are criminals. You don't blame yourself that someone picked your lock,
Right.
bought the wrong lock. These are criminals. They are experts.
Thank you.
It's true. I mean, it's so important to think about it that way. We need to talk about it. We can't put this under the table and just think, oh, I'm embarrassed, I'm not going to share it, because we're just doing ourselves and everyone else an injustice. So we have to all fight back, and fighting back is giving information and guarding ourselves with this information. In fact, we have 2 more webinars coming up that are sponsored by AARP. The next 2 Wednesdays at 5 o'clock, I'd love for everyone to join us. The next one is April 13th, Protect Yourself Against Government Scammers. I was close to being a victim of that. The IRS said that I was going to be arrested, and it scared me. And it wasn't until someone said to me, you know what, that's a scam, that I even knew that it was a scam. I was frightened. And then the following week, we're going to be doing on April 20th, Protect Veterans from Scammers. Veterans are very vulnerable to many scams. So I'm going to actually right now share the registration links right in the chat as well, so that you can register. And also in the email that everyone gets tomorrow, I'll have registration links for these webinars as well, so that you can join and learn more. Again, the more you learn, the better we'll be. And you can also go to schnepsmedia.com/webinars. It's there as well to register. And again, Schneps Media is going to be doing these shredding events, where that is sponsored by AARP, where you can go and shred your personal documents so that you can make sure that those are safe as well. And I'm going to share that link as well. We just have to keep talking and keep sharing about this information. Kathy, Kat, thank you so much tonight for providing this valuable information, helping us all take a new look at what fraud is, and making sure that we're talking about it in a different way, and that we are educating ourselves. This has been incredibly valuable. Are there some parting words and some information, Kathy, that you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah, if you learned something new today, pass it on. Talk with your parents about it, talk with your sisters and your brothers and all your online and offline communities. Like you were saying earlier, Elizabeth, it's like it's almost like inoculating your friends, because if they know it, they're not going to fall victim to it. We just have to keep talking about it. One of the ways you can keep fraud sort of front of mind, you could sign up for watchdog alerts that we send through AARP Fraud Watch Network. If you go to aarp.org/watchdog alerts, you can sign up for a bi-weekly email or text, and it'll give you the down low on a latest scam, but it'll keep you thinking. you know, you're reminded every other week that, yeah, there's fraud out there. And I think that helps a little bit to keep us aware so that we can, engage our inner skeptic when necessary.
Great advice. And I just shared that in the chat. Again, I will also be sharing that in the email. So the email will be chock full of good information for you. And Kat, do you have any parting words for our wonderful attendees?
Well, just to tell people that if you're, like Kathy said, if you're convicted about this, if you would like to learn more, please let us know, because we will be happy to train you. And then from home, from the comfort of your own home, you can help us share this information. We have a monthly call. People can go on to, once they're a volunteer with AARP, and they can learn about the latest scams and then learn how to share that information out through different networks to just keep people aware, because like we said, that when you're aware of it, you're less likely to, become a victim. So we hope that you'll join us, because the more people talking about this, the better. And we have teams waiting to accommodate you. So please let us know at nyaarp@aarp.org. I put it in the chat. Thank you.
Fantastic. Kathy, thank you so very much. Kat, thank you so very much for this valuable information. I know we all leave smarter and more prepared to fight against fraud. I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us this evening. I hope you found this valuable. Please do join us for the next 2 Wednesdays at 5 p.m. to learn more about how to protect yourself and protect others from scammers. And also, please join us at the free shredding events, where you can shred your sensitive documents all for free. We have locations all throughout the boroughs, as well as Nassau and Suffolk County. So hope to see you there. And I wish you all to stay safe, to stay healthy, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.